Greetings YouTube, and welcome back to my sketchbook. Alright, so here we have a kind of a Dwarven Urgosh from 3rd edition, but it's kind of a halberd style head, and then it's got a striking point here, and it's over the top, and it's very ornate, and this is space is way too small. You couldn't get your hand in there in a gauntlet very comfortably, but I kind of liked it, and I think it fits this fantasy vibe that we see a lot. Here we have a vaguely leaf-shaped spearhead, shaft not shown. Here we have an unsuccessful sword design. It's very boring. Here we have another Urgosh, and this is a little more axey with a small point here and here, and a point here. It doesn't really look dwarven, but I kind of still like it in some regards, and I think I really started to get this shaft look down pat. Here we have a sword with a kind of a ridged blade down here. It's very angular, kind of alien monad kind of thing going for it, but I don't think it succeeded all that well. And here we have a fairly silly fantasy sword, though I do like the blade. The blade itself, I think, is successful. This stuff in here is not, and this handle is too thin, and this stone makes no sense. But I kind of like the blade on that one. And I'm hoping I'm not cutting anything off. This is hard because I can't see the screen, but I'm trying my best here, folks. And here we have a Halberd Shaft not shown with a kind of a strange over-the-top chopping with a hole here and a chopping here. The cutout, so it's, you know, kind of a cultural, racial thing maybe, who knows. Here we have a heavy mace, so this is all steel, leather wrapped, probably slightly hollow. It was solid steel, you wouldn't be able to use it, and this is a counterweight. Here we have a heavy chopping sword or machete type tool. This was taken vaguely from a straight razor, maybe something I saw in a illustration. Shoot, who did it? They were in the 70s, 60s, 70s. They did a bunch of artwork. They did a lot of Yes album covers, I remember that. Here we have a double weapon. So it's a short, kind of a dwarven wolf spear with a wide blade at the end, and again playing off the dwarven Urgosh. Here we have a two-handed axe, and this is a kind of a hammerhead with with the meat cleaver point, the meat tenderizer style points here. Here we just have a spear with no shaft not shown, just very simple. This is a large rectangular headed mace of some variety, kind of a mace slash maul, probably be narrower than it is, so it'll be about that, you know, thick like this and wide like that, so almost like a box shape. Here we have a one-handed axe, kind of a tomahawk thing going with points on either end and a small point here. I still kind of like that. I think the proportions are wrong for the handle, but the head design still something I am quite pleased with. Here we have a Trident and shaft not shown with just a slanted head. It was an experiment. Here we have, I think it's a partisan, is what it's called. I think it's a partisan, yeah. And here we have a, oh, sorry, I did that one. I apologize, I already described that. Okay, we have a, I think this is way too short, like around a page here, but it was supposed to be some kind of science fiction carbine. Overall, it was good, but the barrel was too short. But, you know, can't have everything. Here we have a couple of different hooks I'd imagine you might be able to put onto someone who had lost a limb and you wanted to have something, the classic hook, and then a weapon that could be used. Here we have a fantasy glaive head, shaft not shown. Here we have kind of a fantasy halberd, shaft not shown. And here we have a sword, which has a small blade down here, of a slashing short sword design. And here we have a forearm weapon, which has 3 blades. So each blade, these 2 blades face forward, this one faces back. So you wear it here, and this would be very large, designed for like gladiatorial pit combat, that kind of thing. Here we have a staff top, which has double impala antlers. I think it's impalas that have these. But yeah, it's not used as a weapon. But again, I think my graining has gotten very solid here. I was quite happy with that. Now we go on to kind of a double-headed halberd. A halberd has an axe in either section and then a spearhead, and this I think would be quite interesting and effective. Here we have a one-handed kind of a morning star design here. Here we have a very, very simple style machete, and I really loved this. I think I did an excellent job on this, based vaguely on a handle that I have in the real world. I really like this, and I think this one is kind of an all-metal elven version of that, and I kind of like that as well. Here we have a nice hand axe, and I've seen this type of axe in the real world. This was a bronze cast design I'd seen, and this is my version. Here we have an axe that has kind of an oval blade set into a head, so it's got two oval curved style strike faces. Here we have, this is an absurd, silly, alien-style pick. It makes no sense. The proportions are wrong, the steel is wrong, just it would not work. Here we have a hand blade designed based on the letter A. Intentionally, I did that because I wanted that to the shape I wanted. And this, while looking strange, is an actual African axe made out of a piece of wood curved like this naturally, and then a small blade set into it in a socket. This is a real-world design. Here we go with a kind of a machete tool that has a hook on the back, kind of vaguely based off of the Woodsman's Pal. Here we have a large, heavy, two-handed war club, and this is me playing around with design. So the idea of an axe is you have a large amount of impact energy at the end of a shaft. So you have a large hunk of metal that chops something. So I thought, okay, what if you center the mass in the middle of the blade? The cutting edge is actually relatively thin but reinforced. So you have the same function as a battle axe. Cutting edge, rigidity, and weight, but with a completely different, completely avant-garde take. This is literally kind of doing a post-modern battle axe. Yes, it was a design idea. I have no idea if it would function, but I thought it was kind of cool, and it was something I was just playing with. Here we have kind of a alien-style glaive. Here we have a kind of a scythe axe kind of vibe. Oh, and this is the top. By the way, this is here is the top view of that. I did occasionally do two views of the same weapon at some points in my sketching career. And this is the same thing, the top view of that same weapon. And then we have kind of a toothed glaive right there. Let me bring that a little tight closer. Toothed glaive. It's kind of silly. Yes, there are many designs I came up with that I think in retrospect are dumb. I don't necessarily regret doing them because I learned something, but they are kind of silly. So here we have, again, a toothed glaive, kind of silly. Not completely silly, but extraneous things that you don't need that just weakens that spot. Here we have some spearheads. Actually, no, sorry, these weren't spearheads. These were designed, yeah, these are designed as heavy bolts, I think, for something. This is a heavy angular bolt and a heavy bladed bolt. I think they were designed for something like siege weapon or fighting dragons or something. That was my inspiration. And this is just the spearhead, no shaft at all depicted. In fact, you see this right here, was I began to play with an idea, and then I stopped because, boy, this is dumb, and I just never picked it up again. Here we have a two-handed maul style weapon, which is ornate and has a fairly ornate counterweight. These are both spearheads, designed to be absurdly silly. This has points facing out, and this one was kind of points facing in. So you get the same kind of serration. This would not function in the real world. This could possibly function in the real world, but I think it's just asking to get broken. But, you know, again, I was experimenting. I'm playing with ideas, and it's never wrong to play with ideas. Paper is cheap, and so is lead, and I had the time available. Here we have a very ornate spearhead going for a barbed look, and I wanted intentionally to make the barbs all different sizes, so these come out at an angle on purpose. Here we have a one-handed kind of a hand axe with a spike on the back. Here we have a very ornate spear. This would be solid in here. This is kind of a magic item kind of vibe. Here we have a very short, almost cleaver fusion with an axe. That was a dwarven design. Here we have a big, absurdly large battle axe, double-bitted, asymmetric. Here we have a double weapon, and I was going for something very exotic, and I think I failed miserably. It was an alien design. I just don't think it functioned well. So you had this kind of a slashing weapon here, and kind of a blunt weapon there, with a nice stylized eye on it. It's a nice idea. I don't regret doing it, but by gosh and by golly, it was kind of not successful.